And I just want to make a public announcement to quote the great Chris Weidman's father. And this is still my boy.
Welcome to Light Kick, everybody. Man.
We're the Light Kick podcast. I'm coming at you from the basements of Slytherin House, I suppose. Everything's green right now with a poor quality camera. That will change. We're the Light Kick. Mike, how are we doing today?
Pretty good, everybody. Lost a fight yesterday, so yeah. But other than that, holding up.
Listen, my man over here got into a war yesterday, ended up losing, put on a great performance, a great account of himself, and here he is delivering content to you the next day. Can we get a round of applause from the audience? Can we get a round of applause, please?
Okay, I wish there was a soundboard.
Are you not? Well, we can work on it, but are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Seriously, this is your moment, Mike, where you take the gladius and you throw it at, no, it wasn't Emperor. No, you wouldn't throw it at, no, that wasn't Marcus Aurelius. And by the way, he threw that in the, fighting pits of, whatever Arab country he was in at the time, right? Or North African country.
Yeah.
So. And Caligula was the emperor he had beef with. He was not Caligula. I'm talking about the son of Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Whoever Marcus Aurelius' kid is, he was beefing him. They were beefing.
How do I not remember this? I'm a big Roman history buff. I'm ashamed of myself.
Yeah, you are. Is that? Oh, okay. Hold on.
Commodus.
Was Commodus?
Yeah, I didn't even look that up.
Is Gladiator based off of something real?
Commodus is real. Marcus Aurelius is real, but Russell Crowe's character didn't.
Okay. Well, that's
that whole arc. Commodus did actually fight in the arena, and he would actually fight against people that he would have intentionally crippled ahead of time, or he'd fight against he'd get somebody who had two limbs and fight against them. He was just, and listen, the Emperor of Rome fighting in the arena, you've got to think of that Joe Biden going and fighting on Triller or Bare Knuckle or something like that, but worse, but significantly worse. That's what kind of a scandal was put on.
Man, and people were here for it though. Just like Triller, they were probably there for it. They were like, hey,
but he did get assassinated by his wrestling coach. His wrestling coach killed him. So, don't fuck with me, or you'll go the way of Commodus.
That's hilarious. All right.
So we're the Light Kiss. We're the Light Kiss podcast, and before we get into it, subscribe, people. Like the video. We need better equipment. Look at my camera; it's fucking pathetic. I will get him. I'm coming back home soon, guys. Daddy's coming home, and he will get his better camera back. But until then, subscribe, like the podcast, tell your friends about us, share it around, and whatever you do, stay classy, San Diego.
All right. Can we get a transition from the church, please?
Let's get into the news and views of the week.
Hallelujah. Is it one of those really animated black churches in the South where they're like, oh Lord, and can I get an amen? Is it one of those?
You sound like you're out of a Tyler Perry movie when you.
I sound like a Tyler Perry movie. Is Tyler Perry gay?
I have no clue, but I would assume not because he hasn't come out. So I don't assume anybody's sexual orientation.
I'll take that as a yes. Anyways, we are getting into the news now.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a ton of it, but I think one of the biggest things to get into is that the UFC made some substantial cuts this weekend.
Yes,
there was. We'll get into the more significant, the more surprising ones in a second. But first, I just want to mention that 5 fighters cut. First of all, Impa Kasanganai, who I think is a bit of a shame because he was 2-2. I think he had quite a bit of promise, especially for somebody who'd only been in sport as long as he had. Other than that, no notable names except for the late great Kevin Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he found out via
email. Was it email? I heard email.
Savage.
Yeah. Well, look, here's the deal. I could see a world. See, the UFC. Oh, Jude, did you hear that? Sorry about that. I moved my camera a little bit. Okay, but sorry. The UFC is very weird in the way they like to do cuts, in the sense that like you see some people on the roster that stay that have like 5-fight losing streaks, and then a guy will lose like 2 straight and he's out, you know? And I get that, you know, let's say it's one of those, the UFC is one of those organizations that if like, let's say you're a legend in the sport or you still are a bit of a draw, they won't let you go per se. So that's why the Kevin Lee one kind of surprised me, because he is still kind of a name. People do like him. So for him to be cut after, you know, having a rough time of it in his last 4 matchups, his last 5 matchups, is kind of surprising.
Well, here's
I don't mind it in concept.
Yeah, just to go over his how he's been doing lately. Oh, he lost a grappling bout recently on Submission Underground by Escape Time. Let's review the stats. So he's on a 2-fight losing streak, right? 1 to Charles Oliveira, no shame in that. The second of which coming to Daniel Rodriguez, who, you know, while talented, is a bit of a step down in name value. And then before those 2 losses, including those 2 losses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he's 2-5 in his last 7 fights. Yeah, that puts it a little more into perspective, I suppose. And that's going back to 2017 with the Tony Ferguson fight. So he's been on this streak of, you know, lost to Tony Ferguson via triangle choke, and then he's got a win against Barboza, lost to Iaquinta, lost to RDA, beat Gregor Gillespie in that phenomenal knockout, then a loss to Charles Oliveira, and a loss to Daniel Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's weird because I mean, aside from Daniel Rodriguez, I'm not seeing the name that if you lose you get cut from, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, 2-5 is 2-5. Like it's not. You know?
Here's my issue. Not my issue, but my reasoning. I think I am fairly confident that Kevin Lee is probably getting paid, if not the big bucks, a decent amount of money. Would you not agree?
Yeah, he's probably making 6 figures.
So that being the case, if the UFC is going to make an investment in him, and keep in mind, I was as shocked by you. I'm a fan of Kevin Lee, and I was in favor of keeping him around. Does that not then kind of suggest the fact that the UFC lost a little bit of faith that he was going to pan out as a prospect? Not as a prospect, because he's no longer a prospect. He's an established name, but as a potential title contender.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. I think they lost faith in Kevin Lee's ability to live up to his paycheck or what the UFC, I guess, is offering him at this point.
And to his credit, he's now probably going to make a decent living outside of the UFC. I mean, like the guy's 2-5 in his last 7, and here you and I are, you know, disputing him being cut. So clearly, if we have faith that he's going to be, you know, in his upside, clearly other promotions are going to.
Yeah, like I see. That's the thing. I'm not. My problem is not cutting Kevin Lee per se, because I understand 2-5, lots of money. He's expensive. The UFC's kind of been on this like, if you're expensive and not winning, tip, you're gone, kind of thing. But my problem is, then why do you keep Lando Vernada? And I hate to. I'm not saying cut Lando Vernada. I like Lando Vernada, but you get where I'm trying to go with this?
I agree. I just don't think that Lando is getting the same paycheck as Kevin Lee.
I think that's probably the rub, right?
You know. By the way,
but
really quickly,
but you get my saying, like my point. Why keep Lando Vernada? Why keep Maki Patolo? Why? There's a lot of guys who fun fighters, but they lose.
For sure, and we know it's a dollars and cents thing. I think we can agree to that. I just want to quickly point out some surprising names that I'm finding here on Kevin Lee's record now that I'm pulling it up. He beat Kyle Propolek in MFL when apparently MFL was doing pro shows. I didn't even know that that was the case. By guillotine choke. He beat Mansour Bornoui in his second fight, which is interesting because Mansour Bornoui, a prospect outside of the UFC, and he was supposed to fight Tarek Ismail, who's actually a friend and training partner of mine back in 2012 in a canceled bout. Interesting, eh?
But okay, here's my thing. Isn't Tarek like 5'4"?
Tarek's very small. Tarek fights at like 135.
Yeah.
Tarek's so, maybe at the time Kevin Lee was smaller in frame because we're talking all the way back in like, when the heck was this? That bout was scheduled for 2012. So that's a young, hey, got some puppies here. That's a young Tarek Ismail, but just interesting nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool. What was I gonna say?
Yeah, any other pieces of news for us?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Any other news sources or anything else?
I think this about runs us dry. Here's one that I wanted to get into. Felicia Spencer retires.
Oh yeah, that's right. Due to mental health concerns.
Yeah. Do you want to elaborate on this one? Because I've only heard tangentially kind of what this is about.
Well, like I'm not very educated on it either. I saw like a little bit of the Bloody Elbow article, and then I had to kind of, depart to whatever I had to do. But basically, Felicia put out a statement, and the gist of the statement was that she's happy with where she's at in her career, but citing mental health issues as the reason why she would want to retire. And she says she's done. So.
Look, it goes without saying that we wish her the best and that she overcomes whatever mental health issues she's going through, because that's obviously, tragic whenever anyone's suffering from mental health. Mm-hmm. Made a good account of herself as a Canadian prospect. Not the most physically talented person as far as athletic gifts, but sensationally tough and just able to draw out Amanda Nunes for 5 rounds, just absorbing punishment. And she beat some names in the division. I mean, she's got a win over Megan Anderson.
I was going to say.
Not a deep division, mind you, but the heights that you're able to climb to at 145, other than getting the title, I suppose she's done, right? So, I wish her the best in whatever she chooses to do next, and I hope she recovers from her mental health issues.
Yeah. I'm sure look, anyone who does decide that they want to leave, due to unconventional reasons, like mental health. I wouldn't say it's unconventional in the sense like everyone I think knows how important mental health is. So it's not like necessarily unconventional in that sense, but you don't hear people saying that as their retirement. So because of that, I assume anybody who kind of says like they want to retire because of that, and this, I could be wrong, come off as very intelligent people who are thinking the long game, right? And that tends to tell me that they have something planned, or at least will be okay in the long term.
Either that, or she genuinely can't focus on training, and this is wearing on her to an extent where she doesn't feel like she's able to do it to the best of her abilities. And all respect to her. People who are out there listening, a mental health is as important as physical health. Address your mental health. Go the route of Felicia Spencer. If you don't feel like you can do what you're doing, don't do it. And take your mental health seriously. Talk to people. Don't feel like you're frivolous or you're like pathetic or weak for addressing your mental health. I've struggled myself with mental health issues, and it's as debilitating as physical injuries, and it's as out of your control as physical injuries as well. So Mike giving us a shot of the booty as he stands up.
Give me 1 second, everybody. All right.
Pure professionalism on Mike's part, by the way.
I thought you were going to stall.
I want everyone to say hi to my co-host, Ginger.
I thought you were going to stall. Hi, Ginger. So Other than that, I think that's it. I do want to say boxing news.
Boxing.
Boxing news.
In boxing news, Jeremy makes his professional debut against Errol Spence, knocking him out in 2 rounds.
Could you imagine? But yeah, Devin Haney retains his title against Jojo Diaz. So Devin Haney.
Wait, Joey Diaz fought Devin Haney?
Don't do this. Don't do.
You know what, Joe Rogan? I took Devin Haney to the first rounds and I was fucking beat him up. I had to get one of those hot beef sandwiches with the sausage. And just had that immigrant mentality. Okay.
But yeah, no, Jojo Diaz. Devin Haney retains against Jojo Diaz. Yeah, no, my train of thought was gone after that one. He retains his title against Jojo Diaz. Devin Haney, for those who don't know, was the gentleman the African American gentleman or the black gentleman, whatever you want to slice it, was the guy. But basically, that was the guy Teofimo Lopez was yelling at a couple weeks prior to his matchup with George Kambosos, which he lost, by the way. Teofimo lost. So yeah, it looks like up and up for Devin Haney. Not the most flashiest boxer, doesn't have the biggest name, but still a guy who's in the mix as a potential star in the making. So yeah.
Very nice, very nice. I wish I watched that and had more to say about it, but moving on, we had a juicy weekend of fights. A very good UFC non-pay-per-view card. A Bellator card that we'll touch on because of the sensational knockout that might have just stolen knockout of the year. And one championship had a card which I didn't get into, but Rekia and Ursel fought on it, who big fan of myself, Rekia and Ursel, the Immortal. So we are going to touch on these things. So without further ado, how about a little
ding, ding.
Well, now that the required time has elapsed in between the transitions, I suppose we'll discuss the UFC card. And I would say Jose Aldo Jr. turning back the clock, but I mean, he's 35, so I guess I can say
it's weird because he's been fighting forever. So when you think of him, you're like, oh, he's such an old man. It's like, yeah, no, mid-30s, like maybe. Maybe.
Man, this guy has fought several careers.
Yeah.
You know, he has fought several careers, and just to remain relevant as long as he has is impressive. Like, I'm impressed by what Clay Guida's been able to do, getting wins in 2021. You know,
yeah.
Like just having staying power to that degree and get wins over young, relevant opposition.
Being Jose Aldo and like legitimately could claim a title shot with one win, like 1 or 2 ways away from title.
Exactly. Shot. But having title aspirations, my God, in 2021 as Jose Aldo is phenomenal. And I know we didn't do a preview for this, but I gave Rob Font. I thought he could have success against Jose Aldo, but it seemed like to me he made a critical error. Now, Max Holloway showed that volume is definitely a key asset to being Jose Aldo. But that volume needs to be combined with feints, and it needs to be working towards something. And what I saw out of Rob Font was kind of just what I would refer to as like nervous volume, you know? Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Staying active because you feel like you need to stay active, right? And he was landing in the early rounds, but it didn't seem like he was troubling Jose too much. The feints weren't there. The jab didn't look as lightning fast as it usually was. He was pushing Jose Aldo back, but Jose didn't seem particularly troubled in those early rounds, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, I would like it to agree with that assessment. I think the whole thing is when you are putting volume on Jose Aldo, it's important to get Jose Aldo's respect, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think just like the theme of the fight was one fighter got more respect in his striking and what he wanted to do than the other. And I think one of the ways to instill respect is to be able to feint and hit somebody when they can't foreseeably find a way to dodge it. You know what I'm saying? Or find a way to parry, slip, roll, whatever they got to do to get into their counter, right? And feints is a good way to get that going.
You got to get Jose Aldo if you want to beat him. Easier said than done, right? You need to get him exhausted, swinging at air, and second guessing whether he's going to be able to hit you or not, while accumulating damage on him. And
exactly.
Rob Font just wasn't able to do that. He had some good looks. Clearly, just the length of his arms was something that was troubling that Jose Aldo had to get a second to adapt to. He was hitting a beautiful pivot step out uppercut in the earlier. So that was quite nice. But man,
did you see the slip? Did you see the second round where he lands a slip body hook, or body shovel hook? That was just
spicy. Yeah, that was very spicy. And I mean, Jose, hi. Yes, I stopped petting you. Jose had some, had some good looks. He went to wrestling offensively, which I liked. Targeted low kicks, which shut down Rob Font's drive. And the beginning of the end really came when Jose started to be able to push back Rob Font. Was it the end of the second round that Jose Aldo dropped Rob Font for the first time?
I believe he hit him with. No, actually, the first round he dropped him too because he hit him with that right hand, and Rob Font was kind of on Queer Street, and then with the left hook, right hook, Rob Font went down, but it grazed him. So some tells me he was on wobbly legs and went down because of the pressure. But in the second round, that what do you call it? There was a moment where he hit some over the top, and then a knee that drops him.
The knee. What context did the knee drop Rob Font?
So clinch knee while Rob Font was wobbly. It could have been the third now that I think about it, but yeah, it was. I think that's the thing too with Jose Aldo. He hits so hard, and the power has still transitioned and carried over into the bantamweight division. It's interesting, and it's funny because it's like he's a dude that, when you think of early Jose Aldo, goes to leg kicks, slams them into your knee or your thigh, and now you're getting this version of Jose Aldo that's a very hard boxer, but the tactics that both of them use, like both versions of Jose Aldo use, is the same. They want to hit you hard and want to hit you off of counters while you overextend.
Okay, so it was a jab cross, the first knockdown that Jose Aldo is able to hit. Remember that stiff cross that Aldo hit Font on the end of it? Yeah. So that was the first one. Split the guard of Rob Font. Yeah. And that spelled the beginning of the end for me. Then he followed up with the cross uppercut, cut him on one leg. Sorry, I'm just watching a quick recap. I'm seeing the clinch knee that you were talking about. Yeah. Beautiful counter knee work from Aldo as well, actually. I think and his takedown defense looked as good as ever. Like, do you remember that moment in the first round where he ended up doing a cartwheel to get out of that back body lock takedown?
Yeah. So and what's it called? His offensive wrestling wasn't bad either as well. So, which I think you've touched on as well. He took Rob Font down and controlled him on the ground for much of round 4, I believe. Yeah, much of round 4. So, I all in all, great performance from Jose Aldo. I didn't what's the word? I didn't mind Rob Font in this fight. I didn't think he was horrible. He definitely made some critical errors. Definitely overextended himself facing a Jose Aldo type, but good fight all around.
Yeah, it just seemed like he wasn't meaningfully putting on offense. I think I really liked Jose Aldo's top game. Looked phenomenal. He stuffed that shot of Rob Font and ended up in top position and right away passed him into a dope mount, like with a single butterfly hook in, flattened out. His passing just looked exquisite. Prime Jose Aldo, and showing that he can go full 5 rounds was a big asset for me. Like normally Aldo comes on strong in the earlier rounds. Right around round 4, he's taking rounds off, right? But he just looked phenomenal all the way through this entire time, which was a big question mark over a lot of people's heads, even while he'd looked fairly good recently, right?
Yeah. I mean, how much of that is like he's 145 pounds at that point? Maybe it's a little too much weight to carry. You know, how much of that is also like, you know, when he took Rob Font down, it effectively gave him about 3-4 minutes rest. So that in that 5th round, he's a lot more springier than he would usually be. You know,
I mean, that's a fair point too. It seemed like to me he almost intended to have Rob Font on the floor for those extended periods of time. It seemed like that could have been an easy finish, and he said afterwards that he wanted to go 5 rounds. But yeah, I mean, as soon as you said how much of that is carrying around the extra weight, I immediately thought of the Piotr Jan performance. And then I realized that frenetic pace would have gassed out, you know, just about anyone in the world. Did Pedro Munoz fight a 5-round fight?
No, that was 3.
That was 3. Okay.
Good fight though.
Yeah, great fight. Great fight. Hold on, Bowie's over here wanting for some food. Bowie, later. Not yet. As if you understood that. Anyways, yeah, so that was a good fight. What do you think next for these two gentlemen?
I would like to see Aldo versus Dillashaw once Dillashaw recovers from surgery. A lot
of people are calling for that matchup, and I think that's a great fight. I really do. There's a lot of questions for me in that fight. Is Aldo able to? I think Aldo would have to slow down Dillashaw early with the low kicks and kind of stifle some of that movement, target the legs. You know, how effectively will AJ Dillashaw be able to offensively mobilize his wrestling and get angles on Aldo? It's an interesting matchup. Very different styles as well.
Yeah, especially and yeah, that's the thing is that Jose Aldo is probably the best takedown defense artist of all, like takedown defenders of all time. You know, good luck taking him down. Like even some of the best wrestlers to ever do it don't have the takedown percentage, the takedown defended percentage that Aldo does. So it's gonna be interesting to see how TJ approaches that puzzle, and vice versa for Jose Aldo. I guess on Rob Font's side, I don't know, maybe.
Because, you know, this was, for Rob Font, I mean, the ways in which you would say someone starstruck in the matchup, you would, you wouldn't really, up, come here, stop being an asshole, come here, up. You wouldn't necessarily say that he was starstruck in the typical ways that you would say, like he didn't freeze up, right? He wasn't tentative, he wasn't timid, but what he did do was underperform in a way, I would say. I don't think we saw the full of what Rob Font has to offer in that fight. So,
I agree.
I don't know. It's a deep division. There's plenty of interesting matchups for him. I'm going to pull up the top 10. But has he fought Pedro Munoz yet?
No, I don't think so, actually. You know, let me look that up.
Pedro's booked against Dominic Cruz, though.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so, man, Rob Font, I mean, how you feel about him, like, taking on a Song Yadong type? Is that maybe too deep down the rankings?
I mean, Song Yadong's pretty far down the rankings for me. What is he right now? I know he's coming off of a win, but I don't think he's in the top 10, to be honest with you, is he?
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. So let me take a look at the UFC rankings.
Maybe an O'Malley fight, if O'Malley can make it through Paiva.
Which is not a guarantee by any stretch. Paiva is tough. I'm here pulling it up.
Sandhagen would be a fun fight, right? Both of them need to take some time to recover, but Sandhagen would be a fun fight.
For sure. Yeah, right. I mean, they're going to change, obviously, by Monday. But right now, Font is ranked number 4. Sandhagen is ranked number 3. Jose Aldo's number 5. Merab Dvalishvili is number 6. We'll take Cody Garbrandt out there. But Pedro Munoz at 8. Marlon Moraes at 9.
You really can't miss that division, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like there's a lot of fighters, and then you get into Marlon Vera, Rafael Sunsal, Frank Edgar, Song Yadong is at 14, Cody Stamen at 15. Again, subject to change. People can go up, people can go down. But looking at this list, I want to get him a good, fun fight, and not one like where like I'm pretty sure he's gonna lose. And I would actually say Corey Sandhagen is probably the dude.
Corey Sandhagen would be a good fight. I think Dvalishvili is a little bit too much with the pace and wrestling for Rob Font to have a good comeback performance. But Sandhagen could bring out the best in him. That's a fun fight.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, Frankie Edgar with the checkered record down at number 12. Jeez.
Man, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate with Frank Edgar because, he was doing pretty good against Cheeto Vera, and then all of a sudden Cheeto Vera started walking him down.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. Let's see. Okay, so on to the next fight, I suppose. We have what's next on that card? Oh, Brad Riddell Fiziev. Now, this was a spicy meatball, I will say. Former training partners, so you knew they were going to have certain reads on each other. Fiziev.
I gotta ask you a question. Is that why you think Fiziev had so much? Is it Fiziev or Fiziev? Whatever. Is that the reason why you think he had so much trouble against a guy who, usually doesn't look that tricky and smooth?
I think so. Yeah. Riddell tends to be fairly honest with his intentions, and even still, it seemed to me like the numbers didn't bear this out, but it seemed to me that Fiziev was in control of the fight for most of it. Like he was ending exchanges. He was drawing Brad Riddell out of his comfort zone and, closing off those combinations, hitting beautiful counter kicks as one does. I think that was probably that familiarity, those rounds of being able to figure each other out over time, if anything, would benefit Riddell more than Fiziev, right?
Yeah, that's true. Because, Fiziev, for the most part, the one thing about striking that can get knocked is he's very honest with his intentions of what he wants to do. So if you see it over and over and over again, you're going to pick up on things and he's not going to change it.
Wait, do you think Fiziev's honest with his intentions or is it Riddell?
Well, both of them were in this fight, but I think Fiziev, he's very kind of left hand, right hand, cross, switch kick, hook, low kick kind of fighter. I wouldn't necessarily say there isn't. I don't think he's a bad striker by any means. I still think he gets people, but I just think he's kind of honest. So, while that's not bad against facing Mark Jacqueze for the first time, or fighting Bobby Green the first time, if you're seeing a guy over and over again, and he's already honest and isn't in his striking, then you might be able to pull it off. And this was a fight that I personally I thought he performed really well. But I just was kind of shocked that Brad Riddell just looked a lot more polished than his last time out,
Yeah, absolutely. Riddell looked tentative, but looked like at times he was able to put Fiziev on the back foot. I think his decision to abandon the initial takedown in the third round will go down as probably something that he regrets very much.
Yeah, because let's get out of the way. Spin kick. What?
Sorry, what did you say, Mike? You cut out.
Sorry, I was saying, let's talk about that spin kick.
Yeah, sir, it is tough. Apparently, it's something he picked out ahead of time and had a chance to study Riddell in training. But circling with your hands down along the fence is always a dangerous proposition, right? Especially against someone like Fiziev that's going to make you pay for it. Good. Honestly, I give Herb Dean shit, but this was a good stoppage in my mind. Very good stoppage.
I was gonna say, hey man, if for anything else, we got a really good stoppage. I don't think a lot of people would make.
Some people might have thought it was early. I don't think so. I think Riddell had no clue where he was, and as soon as Nazayev moved away from him, he collapsed. So, it was kind of a disturbing stoppage to me, not in the same vein as those where somebody face plants, they're dead, but like he got hit and then it looked like he didn't know where he was and was having a conversation with somebody that wasn't there. It was very uncomfortable. He spotted it right away that this does not represent intelligent defense and got him out of there, and I appreciated that.
Yeah. Hey man, goes to show you. But hopefully this one gets his confidence back up, and then he starts making better decisions than he has in recent years. In terms of his reffing.
Yeah, let's hope so. In terms of his reffing, not in terms of his personal life.
I don't know what his personal life is like, but I don't want to make comments on that. Like, make better decisions on your personal life, Dean. No, kidding.
So, that being said, that was a good, fun fight. Next down the card, we had Jimmy Crute, Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill managing to keep that chin way up in the air and still find success. He just looked like the faster party here. Good lead hooks both times. Lead hook, pivot offline, just to take Jimmy Crute out of there early.
Well, yeah, and again, I think the thing with Jamal Hill is that he's a hell of an athlete, and because he's a hell of an athlete, he. Even with his punching mechanics, while he's fast with his punches, but his mechanics are off. He's fast with his kicks, but his mechanics are off. Technical aspects lacking. There are lots of things that are wrong with Sweet Dreams Hill, but you are allowed a margin of error much greater than your peers when you are that much better of an athlete.
Yeah, that you can just get away with, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, congratulations to Sweet Dreams Hill for being faster at the draw than Mr. Crute. I don't necessarily think there's anything to take away from this because it was kind of a sloppy fight, to be honest, from a technical perspective in that 48 seconds. But sometimes they don't all have to be statistical masterpieces or technical masterpieces, right?
And speaking of sloppy fights, wow, Leonardo Santos giving the poorest account of himself possible. These are one of those fights that I'm glad I'm not watching it with a group of friends, because when they say 7-time Jiu-Jitsu world champion and then you see him gas out after throwing a single combination and get choked up by Clay Guida, you want to just bury your face. Lord of mercy. This was the heights that Leonardo Santos has fallen from promising prospect knocking out Kevin Lee to losing to Clay Guida. I mean, the guy is well into his 40s, but Jesus Christ, far be it for me to criticize someone who's achieved much greater heights to their career, but have you heard of a treadmill? There had to have been something off. There had to have been something off in this fight. I'm going to assume he was injured in some way, because this was just, the ease with which Clay Guida took him down and took his back was just pathetic.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because you know what? Up until what's it called? Up until 2019, 2020, he was pretty much perfect in the UFC. But then he loses to Grant Dawson in that wire fight that ends literally.
Guys, quiet. One.
Literally with the second left. And then it looks like he just wasn't motivated, or probably took Clay Guida super lightly for his fight, and just looked woefully unprepared from the word go. And as a result, Clay Guida came in there and did everything he was supposed to do. And that's not a knock on Clay Guida per se, because and
he nearly beat Clay Guida too. He nearly won. He nearly beat Clay Guida too. He hit that kick with the point of his toe straight to the floor. Guida dropped him and nearly had him out of there in the first round, right?
Right. But that could also be part of what gassed him as well. You're excited, you try to go for the finish, you're trying to land way more than you like you're trying to empty the gas tank to get the finish, and then when you don't, there's the dump, right? The adrenaline dump. So
that's a mistake you expect of a young prospect on their way up, right? That's a mistake you expect of somebody who's, 26 years old in the UFC, and in their first couple of fights and experiences their first taste of adversity. This isn't something you expect of a 40-something-year-old Leandro Santos who's been, in this game since, longer than most of us have been alive.
No, it's true. It's true. It's weird because it's like he was doing so well up until he met Grant Dawson, and so for him to come out to this fight, and basically, yeah. So you wonder what happened. Like,
well, and that's the thing, and he was beating Grant Dawson up until the last round when he got caught, right? So yeah, you've got to wonder what happened in between those two camps, right? What's going on here?
Exactly.
This is a man who tapped out George St. Pierre in a grappling match.
Exactly, right? Like there's well, he's 41 now, and he did come into MMA. He did come into UFC a bit later in his life. He was like 33 when he was in the UFC. When he first started in the UFC. So
but that's 7 years to make something happen, is it not? If that's the case.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
If that's when he came into the UFC, and he's somebody who's been criminally underactive. Let me confirm.
I mean, like I could pull up the record here. But like, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't he on like an undefeated streak until Grant Dawson?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so like, it's more of a case of inactivity due to probably like the guy probably has a lot of sponsors, a lot of people, a lot of students because he's one of the better jiu-jitsu players of all time. Things like that. And maybe just doesn't feel like getting in the ring is worth his while and money.
Well, one fight in 2020, one fight in 2019, one fight in 2016, one fight in 2015, 2 fights in 2015 actually. That's wins over Anthony Rocco Martin and Leonardo and Kevin Lee. Mm-hmm. And he had a draw against Norman Park back in 2014. Beat Efrain Escudero. So he was more active in the early days of the UFC. Going back to 2013, he was in the UFC. So that's 8 years, going on 9 now.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I mean, that's... Look, the whole thing is just like I'm just kind of shocked at my boy Leandro here because he's been good and he was good against Grant Dawson, who I think is objectively a better fighter than Clay Guida at this stage of their careers.
100%.
Right? So you'd have to think that our boy Leandro Santos just didn't come prepared.
You got to assume something's up, right? He didn't come prepared for whatever reason that is, maybe injury, but yeah, very uncharacteristic of a man who earlier this year put on a 3-round fight against Grant Dawson and was dominating up until the last minute or so of the fight, right? As opposed to somebody who gasses themselves after, having a little bit of success early on. It's quite bizarre in my books.
Yeah.
So with that aside, we've got
a bit of an upset here, though, with in this one.
With the Guida fight?
Not clearly with the Guida fight, but the Chris Curtis fight.
Oh yeah, I saw him fight live in New York actually. So I was surprised to see that he was fighting again. I'm like, wow, this is the guy that just upset Phil Haas. Again, gave him a very solid account of himself against Brendan Allen. This man. And he's calling for a potential next fight on the final card of the year. This man's turning into the Kevin Holland of 2021.
And the thing about Chris Curtis too is, came into the UFC relatively late in his career. He's what, 34?
Yeah,
34,
something like that,
right? And ever since getting into the UFC, he's been going for it. he's had a wonderful 2020 and outside in other promotions. Gets the call against Phil Haas, and beats him. You know, granted, Phil Haas was, I think, winning the fight until he found that counter check left hook. So bless his heart. And then beats Brendan Allen, who, you know, is no slouch. I'm pretty sure Brendan Allen before this was ranked.
Yeah, ranked somewhere, at least an established name within the UFC, right? Like, you know, fairly highly regarded. But Chris Curtis, man, hell of a run, hell of a last 2 months to the year for him. I mean, he's good. He's a tricky southpaw. He hits the body well. This finishing combination against Allen, I think it was, he began with beating up the body and then just followed up top with that lead right hook. Just gorgeous stuff, man.
No, couldn't agree more.
And with that being said, you want to quickly get into the Bellator main event?
Sure. Oh, Mickey Gall lost again, by the way.
Yeah, a closer fight, but this was just sloppy. This was a what the fuck performance of the night for me. From both of these gentlemen. Mickey Gall for not going for the takedown, Alex Morono for just swinging these odd straight arm punches from his, you know, he's got this comically straight up stance where he refuses to bend his knees. And both guys are just swinging on missing on these wide straight arm swings. I'm like, damn, I hope somebody who's a fan of boxing who's never seen MMA before doesn't tune into this fight, you know?
Yeah. You know, imagine telling your kids that's like the pinnacle of MMA stand up. Like just
this is the highest level of striking we've seen in MMA.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was.
But yeah.
I mean, good for
Alex Morono
for getting the win. I mean, his dad is, I believe, terminally ill and came to see him fight, so that was a heartwarming story.
Oh.
But technically, just not what you'd like to see out of a UFC card.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in a division that like is kind of like, you know, right now on the rise is kind of the star division, you know, in the UFC, like welterweight. So yeah. Sorry. Anyway, you want to touch on the Bellator card?
So yeah, Bellator had a little event over the weekend. It might as well have been called Revenge of the Canadians because Jeremy Kennedy and Josh Hill both getting it done. Josh Hill by emphatic knockout. Jeremy Kennedy put on a nice grindy performance against a highly, highly regarded opponent. And I always get him mixed up with a Spaniard. What was this guy's name?
Highly regarded opponent. Yeah. Can't remember his name though.
Yeah, you know, highly regarded Bellator opponent. It's I always get him mixed up though with the other guy. Hold on. We're a paragon of professionalism over here.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I can pull it up for you. It's Emmanuel Sanchez.
Emmanuel Sanchez, that's right. Yeah, training partner can do shot.
But you know the crazy thing is with Emmanuel Sanchez is like everyone keeps trying to like Bellator keeps trying to convince me that Emmanuel Sanchez is like, you know, a top contender in the division. But every time I see Emmanuel Sanchez, it's either a really boring win or he gets knocked out or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean Jeremy Kennedy certainly did a number on him, right?
Yeah.
Or Josh Hill. Was that Josh Hill?
No, it was Jeremy Kennedy. Josh Hill faced who did he face? He faced another gentleman. You know what? I will say though, the killer in the
Oh, he beat Jared Scoggins, who I believe is one of the other Scoggins brothers, both karate stylists. Justin Scoggins being the other one. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, you know, I will say though, the Bellator featherweight and lightweight division is they're rounding out. It's rounding out. They got this one kid. I think Jeremy Kennedy lost to him last time. Borix.
Adam Borix is good. I mean, man, this 35 division in Bellator, this tournament that they're throwing on, is actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
They've got the two competitors, Kyoji and Sergio, who just fought, which we'll talk about in a second. It's an interesting little tournament. They've got Josh Hill as a potential replacement. We just pull up the Bellator tournament right now. because there was some. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, gentleman Josh Hill, of course, like, you know, one of Stony Creek's finest. I think he's right now training at or he spends time training at House of Champions. So
He had Lyndon Whitlock in his corner for this fight.
exact. Oh, so probably either a top team guy or Jocelyn's. So yeah, like definitely. Oh, by the way, Josh Hill beat Jared Scogins. So pretty good win. Pretty big feather in the cap there.
Okay, so
Jared Scogins, I believe, was 10-1 going in, and was sorry.
Yeah, here are the fighters in the tournaments: Magomed Magomedov, James Gallagher, James Gallagher, Rafael Stotts, who I'm told is very good, Leandro Higo, and then we've got Pettis and Horiguchi, and Juan Archuleta as well, I believe. Is that 8? I believe that's 8.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun little
pretty big tournament. You know, hopefully doesn't die like a fart in the wind like the Bellator light heavyweight Grand Prix did, but
or the heavyweight one.
The light heavyweight Grand Prix. I remember being so excited, and it was an epic disappointment.
It's still going on, is it not?
It's still going on.
The finals now between
Anderson and Nemkov. Right? You know what? I'll take it back. I don't think it was a massive disappointment, but it definitely did kind of leave me with a little sour taste in my mouth because Yoel Romero didn't even get to compete due to something physical with him. And then Anthony Johnson in the next round gets sick. So
out of control a bit, but yeah. The heavyweight one was more disappointing for me because it was, you know,
not good.
Full of middleweights.
Yeah.
Right, but,
it was not good.
But man, KO of the year for Sergio Pettis, potentially, right?
See, you know, it's funny because I remember telling you off air that like this is the reason why MMA is so cool, and in a weird way, this is the reason why I lost. You can be winning the fight. You could be winning the fight on your way to the decision with like very little time left. And all of a sudden, now that's not what happened here per se. There was still like, it was in the 4th round. But the thing is that, you know, you're not winning unless you get a knockout, right? And all of a sudden, you know, one spinning back fist later, one cross later, one whatever later, fight's over.
Kyoji fought as perfect a fight as you could expect, right? Maintain distance. And Sergio's moments in this fight were limited to like maybe 1 or 2 shots being landed. You know, like I can pick at individual moments, but that is the correct use of a spinning back fist. I mean, through that tight high kick coming out of the clinch and then just followed up after it just skimmed over the top of Kyoji's head and just Kyoji went to sleep, man. That was a shocking knockout.
Yeah. You know, a couple things. You know,
like Sergio had zero success in that fight as well. Like zero success working towards anything. This is as much of a Hail Mary as you can get.
Oh no, that's the thing, right? Like it was I don't think there was like a sequence where I was like, you know, Sergio Pettis really got him there and showed him something, you know? It was so weird. Like realizing the wrestling there was no sequence of the fight. There was no exchange, or I'll not explain it, but there was just every aspect of MMA that you could possibly find. Pettis was at massive was what felt like overmatched massively. Striking, wrestling, clinch. Well, that's wrestling. The wrestling clinch, Thai clinch, even the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu aspect of rounds. And I think part of it is because Pettis' style is a very patient style. It's a very I don't know, explain it better than like not fan friendly, but it's very patient. It's very like stally in a way. Which is weird to say. I don't want to say that of a fighter. Like, they're all working hard. They're all doing their best. But I think a lot of aspects has to go credit to Kyoji Horiguchi. And I don't think his stock loses credit. But, man, will that KO be played for years and years to come?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, potentially Kyoji will have a chance to avenge it, being that they're both entrants into the Grand Prix. But you've got to assume that Kyoji would be placed as one of the later matchups, probably taking place sometime in later 2022, because that was just horrible, man. He's going to need some time to recover from that spinning back fist. Brutal.
For sure. Can you imagine? They're like, hey, you're back in next week. January.
Yeah. That's how you use your spinning back fist as well. So many people try and use it like Valentina, where they're just running at people spinning. You gotta make the spinning back fist count. You gotta throw it after a missed kick. Otherwise you're just exposing your back for no reason. That's the function of it. It's to recover from a missed kick, right? Your opponent has the illusion that you've given your back, and then all of a sudden there's a forearm across their face. Whereas if you just spin out of the blue, there's no advantage to that. You might as well be throwing a hook, right?
Yeah.
And save yourself the extra time. It's not like it has a significant amount of power on it, more than a hook. Probably not at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen a spinning back fist knockout in a long time.
Too, right?
What's that?
And Kyoji kind of walked in it too, because he was in that path, going to Pettis' left side there.
Was it? Or was he, I thought he was just backing straight out, but I might be wrong.
He was, because when you look at it, the cage is in the back, so like Kyoji has to go to, I want to say, Pettis' right side, and so when he lands that spinning back fist with his left, Kyoji's circling that way because the cage was to his back, right? So yeah, in a way, like the whole point I'm trying to make is it wasn't just a spinning back fist for spinning back fist's sake. There was timing, there was power, there was lots of things to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. Oh, hey, where you going? All right, man. Anything else for us to talk about?
Well, I didn't get to take a look at that one championship card. I didn't see it.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't really taken a deep dive into it as well.
Yeah. I heard Cage Warriors had a card, but can't confirm nor deny.
Oh, wow. Brad Katona is training out of SBG Ireland. I did not know that. Just went down a deep dive on Tapology. Well, I suppose we have been the Leg Kick podcast.
No stories, no nothing?
No, I think I got to call it here, my friend.
Hey, fair enough.
More stories next time.
All right, sounds good. All
Wakanda
right, Grandma
forever.
Children, let's call it.
Wakanda forever, children. Support the Leg Kick podcast. And if you don't subscribe and hit that share button, we'll do to you what we did to Jeremy and David. It's no surprise they're not on the podcast today. They crossed us, and you'll do well not to do the same.
Yeah, they're fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, they're fine, all right.
For legal reasons, we must say they're okay. In this crazy mixed up world where it's 6 o'clock and dark as shit outside, just remember, we got 3 things. You got life, you got family, and this podcast. Take it easy, my friends. Oh my God. All right.
Ooh.